Welcome to the Creative Liberty Podcast. I am your host, Major Chisholm, and in the studio with me today, I have, it's not a mystery guest, but today I have with me my wife, Shanna Chisholm. Welcome.
Hi.
With much coaxing and goading, I
Yeah.
have convinced her to join me on this podcast.
My arm hurts.
She only had to say uncle once.
Mm.
So, hello, love.
Hi.
Thanks for the cookies.
You're welcome.
They're delicious. These are what?
Pumpkin chocolate chip cookies.
Pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. And the chocolate chips are still gooey. Oh, yeah. So, let me finish this bite and down it with some water. We are, so just for our audience, our nation right now, these will, if this podcast takes off and becomes anything other than our friends listening to it, these episodes, these first few episodes, hopefully, will kind of be the coronavirus episodes because you're really the only person that can come into the studio and talk to me. Everyone else is either going to phone in, and that's really about the only way they can do it until we return to face-to-face interviews with people.
We are sitting 6 feet apart, though, just for everyone's peace of mind, including our own.
So I would love to talk to you about design. And we can, first I just want to kind of get your story on design and bring us up through maybe even high school, then college, and then kind of where you worked after that.
I think design for me started back when I was a kid.
Start there, yeah.
Because I was always rearranging my bedroom furniture. So I'd get bored with the layout, and I would spend an afternoon just rearranging. And I loved putting outfits together, that kind of thing. Didn't really do a whole lot of art in high school. I probably got more into art in college. And then, of course, I guess if you consider dance, it's more of a performing art. But I was big into dance from the time I was 4 to, college age.
Okay, so you've always kind of been a creative.
Yeah.
Since you were little. Okay.
Yeah.
And then in college, and kind of exploring the arts, what did you see yourself doing, or what did you gravitate towards kind of in college in those classes?
Well, so I went to a junior college, and what piqued my interest most in the arts was an art appreciation class that I took. And we did some sculptures. We took some pieces, and I don't remember what it was called, but we put them in these big, outdoor kilns, and put different debris in there. And you'd burn it, and it would make different colors on the piece that you put in there.
Yeah.
And then just a lot of the art history that we studied. I just really got into it, even though I was studying business computer management, which is completely different. So then after junior college, I decided to take the art route when I went to a 4-year school.
And where did you go for your university?
K-State, Kansas State.
Go Wildcats.
That's right.
Power Cats. So, and then at K-State, what did you major in?
I really wanted to go the interior design route. And after talking to my advisor, We decided to go the graphic design route, even though it was a newer field. So a lot of what I ended up doing in classes was copy techniques, a lot of transfer type images. We used vellum to make signs. So we didn't use computers until my senior year.
Yeah. I kind of similarly went through the same route, doing graphic design, but all of it was mostly by hand until, we had computers. Looking back on that, do you I don't know if regret's the right word. Do you regret or wished you had continued through with the interior design route?
I still have a passion for it, so possibly.
Yeah.
Just simply because I'm not into a lot of the social media platforms. And that's really pretty necessary when you're in the graphic design field. So, yeah, I mean, I had a good run doing graphic design for 10 years, 5 years at a newspaper, and then another 5 years at the Alumni Association. So I had a good run, but it started getting into more Facebook stuff, website development, and I really prefer print. I like to feel pieces, see pieces in person. It's just more personal to me. So,
what were, if you can remember, what were some of the publications that you liked to look at?
oh goodness, there was a communications design magazine that published like some of the best.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. How?
Yep. How? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The print age. Wow.
Yeah. And just always kind of wherever you're at, looking at different businesses' logos and kind of thinking through, oh, I wonder what they were thinking when they created that, and seeing if it kind of made sense to you or if it was hard to figure out the communication of that design.
Right. Yeah. And you did some pieces for K-State that are still around, right?
Well, they were a couple years ago when we visited campus. So, I haven't been back.
Yeah. And you left K-State, you graduated, well, you left Kansas, what year? 2012?
Yeah.
Okay. So they were still there from 2012 to 2018, 19?
18 at least, yeah.
Okay. So that brings us up to after college and stuff, and now you're not, for our audience, you're not in the design industry currently, correct? Right. But when you are looking or trying to decide on, I don't know, anything, it could be a piece for our house or something to wear or art or whatever. What are those things that come to you that either you learned a while back or you look at now and you think through, like, what I know we've talked about this off air.
Well,
what are those? What inspires you? What motivates you? How do you still live in that realm of design and creativity and things like that when you're looking at stuff out in the public and stuff? That's a huge question, and I'm sorry. I should probably narrow that down. No. For the record, I personally think my wife has done a fabulous job decorating our home.
Thank you.
And when I am with her out and we're looking at stuff, I might point out a piece of furniture or something like that, and I can tell she's like, meh, okay. But when she brings something home and tries it, or chooses something, it fits. It really does. And so I guess that's what I really want to kind of get to the heart of is, I guess, what inspires you creatively. How do you choose pieces? And maybe some of this is more of a philosophical question as far as, the choosing aspect, but, and it could be as simple as I picked it because I liked it, but I don't want to speak for you. I would love for you to kind of talk kind of through some of that. So
we all gravitate towards certain colors or images. So I think that's a lot of it, is bringing those things into your home that speak to you through their color, through their shape. And then as far as interior design, it's about balance in a room. You don't want to put a bunch of things on one side of the room and make it feel heavy on one side, and you've got one or two pieces on the other side. It's not going to feel balanced. And with design, especially with my graphic design background, it's somewhat similar because you're also balancing elements on a piece of paper. Different designs, the size of whatever you have on the page, colors you want it to be balanced or have a focal point. So it's very similar. And I think most people that I have discovered or that I've been around that are good creatives, they've got a skill in it, because there are a lot of creatives out there, but sometimes their style can almost get a little too crowded and eclectic, but that's what they enjoy. But people that really have a talent and skill with design and really know good design, they're able to carry that over into so many different areas of their life, whether it's the way they dress, the way they design their home, all those different aspects. Photography, usually, they have a pretty good eye for composition in photographs. And as you know, I don't tend to gravitate towards trends. There's certain things that I feel can be timeless, but then there's other things that I see as elements that, it's really hip right now, but give it 5 years and you're going to be looking at whatever that is and going, what was I thinking?
Right.
Because it's just, everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. It's something new to them. But once again, if you're someone that's involved in design and you're like, I view different websites that are design based. So I'm currently looking at things that are popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of just look through those, sift through those, and I find those things that you don't see a ton. Because I don't want to be like everyone else, which is also the way most creatives are.
Right.
You want to be unique. Right. And you're not going to be solely unique, but I don't want to dress like other people. I don't want to design my home like other people. I want it to feel like our home and reflect us and the way we like to live and the way we use our space. And
yeah, that's a great answer to sorry again for a huge question, but you knocked it out of the park. Can you give us an example of a trend? If someone's out there listening and they're like, well, what's the difference between timeless and a trend. Like if they were wanting to figure out, I want my home to be timeless but not trendy. What's a just a
one that comes to mind, and I've seen it in a lot of restaurants and coffee shops, and in a lot of people's homes now, is gold fixtures. And I know it looks really sharp with black, and but that's one of those things. Yes, it's different, but when I look at it, I think it's going to be one of those things that is going to be trendy, and I see it not lasting longer than 5 years, and it'll be similar to probably when brass accents came out, and people were like, "Oh yeah, this is so cool and different," and then here we are, all replacing brass things
with brushed nickel. Yeah.
So that's just one small example.
Thank you. Don't
say it,
please. Well, I was just gonna say is
shiplap.
Shiplap. No, actually, I was gonna say barnwood, like reclaimed barnwood.
Yeah,
is a trend, I think.
But I think it's fading now.
Yeah,
it was really. I don't even remember when that.
Mid-2000s, maybe.
Yeah, that and like the sliding barn doors. That too was like really cool at first because it was different.
Right.
But then everybody, I gotta have barn doors on this and barn doors on that. And sometimes it works. And sometimes it really doesn't work with everything else that's going on in the space. But
right.
If it makes people happy, then you do it. And I get that.
And that's what I was going to say. I was like, at the end of the day, if it's what you want to do and it's how you want to decorate, that's great because it's your space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have watched, and it's been a few months ago. We watched Joe and Chip Gaines
Fixer
Upper.
Love you guys. FYI, love you, Chip and JoJo.
Yeah. And every time you turn around, Joe would be putting shiplap up, or she would be tearing down the walls of someone's house to get to the shiplap. And it just would crack me up. And I know Chip got to the point where he's like, let me guess, you want to cover it with shiplap.
Yeah.
So it just was kind of this little joke, it seemed like, because that was just like the trendy thing, that farmhouse look with the shiplap walls. Yep. And, that's okay. But it cracked me up because that was just kind of like her design thing.
Yeah. And there must be a ton of houses or homes built in Texas with shiplap because
and that's okay.
And that's totally fine.
But it cracks me up.
It was the reoccurring thing in the show. Yeah. And I love that at the kind of towards the end of the season, Chip was kind of able to go, let me guess, you want some more shiplap. And she was good with it. Oh, and yeah. I love the kind of their behind the scenes where she's like, yeah, that first, pilot and few episodes, I really did not know what I was doing. And that's okay. And I think that's what's great about design and stuff like that. It's people figuring that out for themselves, right?
Yeah. And, when you're trying to design for someone else, as you know, I was an interior designer for a couple of years at Ethan Allen. And so I had a lot of former clients that would, call me out to their house. And I had one that would trust me enough to just, she wouldn't even come to the store. I would just go to her house and bring samples of, upholstery and leather and wood trim. And we would just figure things out in her home. And so yeah, it was just it was interesting to have those experiences and see how different everyone is. Some people have a definite style and they can vocalize that, where others, it's harder for them to kind of tell you what they like. So usually, like with that, I would try to find one or two pieces that they just really, loved, whether it was the shape, the color, it might have been something that's been in their family a long time. So you find those pieces to try and start building around, and also just getting to know whoever it was that I was designing for. That was the
Right.
fun part, was, getting to know them as a person. Sometimes I would ask them, well, what colors do you wear? And I'd have them pull out their clothes, so I could see that patterns that they gravitated towards. So that was always fun, and then to figure out too how they use the space, because everyone's different. Some people do really like to entertain, and if you have a lot of younger kids, you're going to design the space different than if it's mainly older people that are using that space.
Retirees or something. Yeah. And you spoke a little bit about this, but even with like when you worked at Ethan Allen or say at K-State, so when your client does not know what's the best way to do it? My very short stint in graphic design. For the record, I have a graphic design degree and worked very shortly in graphic design in college. But when you have a client that doesn't know what they want, and you show up versus the client that does know what they want, and I don't know, I'm asking the right question here. Let me back it up. What do you do when you have a client who wants a particular look or a style, and that's a horrible look and a horrible style? What do you do?
I never really ran into that per se, because you can guide them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the best way to do it is, and I'm honest, so I'm not going to be rude to anybody, but I'm going to politely try to guide them in the direction that I think they're going to be happiest with what they're selecting.
Yeah. And that goes back, I guess, to that personal piece where you're getting to know the person. And
That's the best part.
Yeah.
And then you can really design space for someone when you get to know them and how they live. And
that's cool. Any tips or tricks when it comes to design?
As I kind of said before, a lot of it's about, knowing colors, what colors work together. It's basics, composition, balance with, weight of, it'd be weight of furniture, weight of pieces, meaning, you're not going to put some huge bookcase that's black on a wall and then have one tiny chair. It's going to make the room look off balance because you're going to have this gigantic piece that adds a lot of weight to one side of the room. And then you'll have this small chair that doesn't add much weight. So then you got to balance that out.
Right.
So yeah, and I like to add some little fun elements sometimes to a room.
Yeah, talk about that for a minute. Like, you can even talk about, what you've done here. What are those kind of ancillary items that just kind of make a room pop, or those little fun little elements? What?
Once again, I think it's personality that you show in your living environment. I think a really good example, you and I went to a holiday home tour. So they had some designers come in and decorate these homes for Christmas. And the thing that I was a little bummed about on that. The designers all did a beautiful job, but it didn't seem to reflect the families that lived there very much.
Mm-hmm.
There
I
were
remember you saying that.
There were a couple designs that they incorporated, like the family's heritage and some things that they had saved over the years. So I thought that was really special and adds personality of that family to their home. But then there were other places that they like had taken down family pictures and really just kind of made it feel more like a museum, or like you were looking at just a catalog that was selling things in a room, instead of, a family lives here and this is the personality of the family that lives here.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what really makes a space,
Right.
a happy place. And
Yeah.
we've had people over and they've walked in and they're like, oh, it feels like home. And that's what you want. You want it to feel lived in.
Mm-hmm.
You want it to feel welcoming, and not like it's, just a for looks
Right.
type environment.
It's not the, what do they call the starter homes for the subdivision or whatever, the model home. Yeah. A lot of them kind of felt like that.
Yeah. But just adding your personality, whether it's funny pictures or, you would know what that is.
Right. Yeah.
Make it your space.
Make it your space. That's good advice. Bosco's.
He's wanting some love.
He's wanting some attention. Bosco's our dog. Bosco, I found in 2008 on the side of the road in Nashville, Tennessee. He's 13 years old, and we did the DNA test a few years ago, and he is straight down the middle. I thought he was going to come back 3 or 4 different things, but he is straight down the middle. He is half Beagle and half Boston Terrier. And that's, go ahead.
And he has at least 3 different spaces around our house.
Mm-hmm.
He makes other spaces his as well, but
like the end of our bed. Yeah, he's got 3 dedicated spaces. Although the garage, when I'm out there working in the studio, he does not like to come out and lay in the bed out there for some reason, but could be the loud power tools. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add as far as design or space or being a creative?
I think as far as creatives are concerned, I have a lot of creative friends. I have friends that are photographers, graphic designers, painters, and when I think of their personalities, they like to be unique. They don't like mainstream things, whether it be food or activities.
Mm-hmm.
They like doing things that are different.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that very much. Yeah.
Thank you. I think one of the when you were talking about that, one of the cliche quotes that I remember is be yourself because everybody else is taken. And so just when it comes to being creative and designing things, be yourself. Show your personality in that thing. And for instance, I love that you have incorporated my mom's guitar in our home up on one of our shelves. And yeah, and I love that. So that
it adds to the story.
Right.
Like when you walk in our house, people may not know where things have come from, but we do.
Yeah.
And if anyone were to ask, then we could tell them.
Yeah. It's part of our story. And I think that's a great thing for creatives and for people in general is to share your story in the space that you live or in the work that you do or whatever you're being creative, or even if you're not a creative, those things that you can implement is part of your story. Like my mother's guitar that she bought at Sears and Roebuck back in the day, so yeah.
Another thing I was thinking, back when I was in college, one of my drawing classes, we had people from other different majors in that class. So maybe they were teachers and they needed to take, they needed another credit. So they decided, I'm going to do drawing one. So it was really interesting to see the talent that some of those people had, that they didn't see it. They're like, oh, this is not, I'm not good at this. And I'm looking at what they drew and I'm like, no, you really, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think that's always fun too. 'Cause everyone has creativity.
Right.
It's just in different forms.
Absolutely.
So yeah. And, I taught preschool too. So that was another thing, was seeing kids and how their little minds worked and, where their creativity lied.
Right. Yeah. And I've as an art teacher for the last 21 years, I've had people tell me, I'm not creative. I don't have a creative bone in my body. And I'm like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You do it in different ways. You may be manipulating numbers, or you may be, being a woodworker, or
Clever,
whatever.
witty.
Clever, witty. Yeah, exactly. And that's where your creativity can excel. And so, yeah, I try to always impress on people that you do have two sides of your brain, and one side is meant for creativity and the other is for analytical and things like that. And so you can ignite those embers and those fires in your creative side. And what a great time kind of right now when America and the rest of the world has kind of pushed pause on a lot of things, for us to kind of explore that, whether it's reading or learning a new craft or being creative or, being present, taking care of our families, things like that. What a great time to do those things and kind of explore those avenues and areas. Maybe pick up your mom's old guitar and learn to play it or something. So, yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I really do appreciate you coming on my podcast. And I love you.
I love you too.
I hope everyone can hear and see the smile when she said that. So that's that is our podcast with my wonderful wife, Shanna Chisholm. And that was on design and being creative and things like that. Yeah. Anything else? Last words, final thoughts?
No. Kind of reiterating what you had said. This is a great time to just explore the bounds of your creativity. Be resourceful.
Yeah.
And have fun with it.
Yeah. Have fun. All right. Well, I'm going to roll the intro, the outro. The intro and the outro. We've done the intro. Here comes the outro. Thank you for joining us on the Creative Liberty Podcast. I am your host, Major Chisholm, and each week we're going to have someone else who is a master at the craft, a creative ninja, someone who knows what they're talking about. Come on and just share their story with us, and hopefully it inspires you to get out and do stuff and be creative and take those wonderful liberties that you have and just explore life. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in, and more episodes coming soon. Thanks, guys.